afternoon, everyone. We'll get started. I'm Katie Chamont. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Dallas office of the FBI. And I'm really proud to introduce our panel up here today that will be able to give you some information and results of an operation that we've been working on for a while, and then certainly this morning, Operation Taste the Rainbow. So here behind me, I have the Acting United States Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Preet Shah. I have our FBI Dallas Special Agent in Charge, Mr. DeSarno. Our Texas Department of Public Safety Regional Director, Mr. Longway. I also have Lubbock Police Chief Floyd Mitchell and Lubbock County Sheriff Kelly Rowe. We also want to recognize a couple of other agencies that are represented as part of the operation today, and that would be the ATF's Dallas Field Division, the U.S. Marshals Service, DEA's Dallas Field Division, and Homeland Security Investigation. So with that, Mr. DeSarno.
Thanks, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. As Katie said, my name is Matthew DeSarno. I'm the Special Agent in charge of FBI Dallas, which includes our Lubbock resident agency. I'm here joined with my partners from the Northern District U.S. Attorney's Office, the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Lubbock Police Department, and the Lubbock Sheriff's Office. And we're here today to announce the results of Operation Taste the Rainbow. It was a large-scale drug trafficking investigation, and I'll tell you a little bit about our general operations today, but as it is an ongoing case, we won't be able to discuss specific investigative details with you today, but as soon as we are able, we will share those details. So while much of the community slept this morning, the FBI and our law enforcement partners, represented by my colleagues here and others as mentioned by Katie, executed 15 federal arrest warrants in and around Lubbock, Texas. These actions were all in support of a federal grand jury indictment that was returned last month that Mr. Shaw will discuss in a little bit of detail. We also executed 5 additional state arrest warrants related to drug and gun crimes while we were conducting those federal arrests. Nearly 200 law enforcement personnel executed this operation here in the West Texas region and mostly in the greater Lubbock area. This significant operational response was designed with protecting the community in mind. FBI Dallas investigative elements were supported by the FBI Dallas Critical Incident Response Team, which includes our SWAT team, our crisis negotiation folks, and others. We also had multiple dozens, really, of investigative special agents, task force officers, and clearly worked in partnership with these other agencies. The FBI's criminal investigative focus is on targeting the overall leadership of gangs and criminal enterprises that drive violence in American communities. Our nation is making progress against violent crime, but it remains a concern in too many of our communities. Those of us in law enforcement cannot rest while some of our residents live in fear in their own neighborhoods. The goal of this operation is to make a significant impact on violent crime in Lubbock. While every agency up here has different roles and responsibilities, we all share the responsibility to combat violent crime effectively. These types of crimes unsettle communities, undermine our citizens' most basic sense of security. In this operation, we combine traditional law enforcement work with intelligence assets. The FBI has complementary roles as an intelligence and investigative agency, and intelligence resources are critical to these types of investigations in an effort to unravel contacts, track dollars, weapons, related criminal activity, and identify the networks involved in these criminal enterprises. We consider today's operation a success. It spanned multiple locations and multiple subjects, and charges resulted in removing criminal elements from the streets of Lubbock. The Bureau has already dedicated resources and strong partnerships to help support the ongoing efforts to reduce violent crime. Through our law enforcement partnerships and task forces, we're sending a loud and clear message to violent criminals that we will deploy our collective strength to ensure the safety and security of our neighborhoods. In today's world, the threats we face are too diverse, too dangerous, and too all-encompassing for any of us to attack on our own. You'll hear about the resources of our law enforcement agencies used to serve the community, and we have heard the concerns of the residents of Lubbock and greater West Texas, and we brought every possible resource to dismantle the criminal organization in this operation. Before I turn it over, I'd like to ask for the public's assistance in locating 5 fugitives in this investigation. As you can see from the screen, if anyone has information about the whereabouts of these 5 individuals, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or report that to tips.fbi.gov. They are Christopher Ruiz, Bobby Garcia, Oscar Alcala Jr., Alexandra Cruz, and Christopher Lumbaugh. You'll hear from our partners about the support and the effort they brought to today's operation and this overall investigation. And as soon as we're able to share more information about the details of the investigation, we'll do so. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the Acting U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Pri Shah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Like Matt said, I'm Pri Shah, I'm the Acting U.S. Attorney for Northern District of Texas. I'm glad to be in Lubbock here today because today was a very good day for the rule of law. Dozens of violent criminals and their guns and their drugs were removed from the streets in a matter of hours, and the community here in Lubbock is safer because of that. As SAC DeSarno told you, 15 defendants were arrested and federally charged this morning. Here in Lubbock, most of them, a couple in San Antonio as well. An additional 20 defendants who were already incarcerated were served with federal arrest warrants related to this investigation. And of course, we have these 5 fugitives who we're hoping to track down as soon as we can. We are charging these 40 defendants with a vast array of federal crimes, but primarily distribution of methamphetamine, and unlawful possession of firearms, and conspiracy to commit those crimes. Many of the people that were charged here, that were arrested here today, are charged with serious crimes and face decades-long sentences. And every single defendant arrested has a rap sheet a mile long. Between them, these 40 defendants have been previously charged with 32 assaults, 9 burglaries, 3 robberies, 1 murder, 24 firearm crimes, 69 controlled substances violations, 3 terroristic threats, a forgery charge, 12 frauds, and even a child sexual assault. And that does not include what we're charging them with today. So I'm incredibly grateful for the law enforcement leaders here this afternoon, FBI SAC DeSarno, Texas Department of Public Safety Regional Director Joe Longaway, Lubbock Police Chief Floyd Mitchell, and Lubbock County Sheriff Kelly Rowe, and the good folks from the ATF, the DEA, the U.S. Marshals, and Homeland Security, who all played an invaluable role in what happened here today. Now, earlier this summer, the Justice Department announced a concerted effort and a plan to combat violent crime. It is a fact of life that there's always a surge in violent crime in the summer. And over the past year or two, we've seen these numbers surge even more than what we're used to. So the department is committed to deploying its resources to effectively combat that violent crime. And the operation here today exemplifies that plan. We focus today on this area's most violent gang members and drug traffickers. We focus on the men and women who are driving up the city's crime rates, the ones that are most responsible for the uptick in violent crime. We zeroed in on offenders that are using guns for unlawful purposes. And we relied on close collaboration between federal, state, and local law enforcement to ensure that this operation went off without a hitch. As many of you know, Lubbock did see an uptick in violent crime last year. And we saw an uptick over the summer as well. But we've seen those crime rates start to fall. They fell this summer, and I think all the people in this room are committed to making sure that that momentum carries through into the fall and into next year. So we want Lubbock to know that the feds are here to help. Your local law enforcement has done a tremendous job on the front lines, and we've been honored to be working by their side in this effort. There are advantages to bringing federal charges in cases, and there are advantages to state charges. What we're doing here today is making sure that the right people are put behind bars for the right charges in the right prisons. We're working closely with the Lubbock County DA's office to ensure that everyone responsible for a violent crime is captured and charged. The people who were arrested here today and the people out there in Lubbock still need to know that they're facing a coordinated and aligned attack from local and state and federal law enforcement. They need to know that federal authorities are committed to being a partner and removing the worst criminal elements from this community. And we're not planning on resting until we're done. So this is only the start, and we hope to be here soon to announce even more. I'll turn it over to Chief Floyd.
I just have a few prepared remarks, and then I'll speak a little bit about our partnerships here. You know, today is a stark reminder of the importance of our local, state, and federal partnerships in fighting criminal activity within and around the city of Lubbock. Lubbock is a hub city here, and we are growing in our population, so it's important that we keep these relationships tight. Through this operation and ongoing partnerships with the Lubbock County Sheriff's Office, the Texas Department of DPS, FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshals, and the Department of Homeland Security, a number of criminal offenders were arrested on drug possessions, weapon charges, and conspiracy charges today. These are the same individuals that are out there shooting in our streets and causing havoc with our neighborhood. The hard work and thousands of hours put in by the officers, deputies, and agents assigned to this operation has resulted in these offenders being taken off the street and put into custody. I am truly grateful to have these law enforcement partnerships as we continue to work together to make a difference within our local community. Several people in our public have heard me say before that last year was one of the worst years that we've had in Lubbock in regards to homicides. A lot of these homicides could have been prevented, and we're working hard in the Lubbock Police Department with our partnerships with the agencies that you see up here and out there in the audience to reduce the crime within Lubbock, and we will continue to do this. Kelly?
There's not a whole lot more I can add. Reemphasize how important these partnerships are and how much more effective we are when we act together, when we maximize all of our limited resources together, and we end up with outcomes like we saw today, and that we continue to see operation after operation. Lubbock over the last number of years has had a great reputation when we've had these large operations of seeing significant amounts of success. And we are committed, like everybody standing up here, to continue that, and with the primary goal and primary everybody to enjoy, raise their families, and enjoy good lives. So thank you.
We can take a few questions if there are any.
Shift with you.
My name is Grace Morris. I'm with KMAC. You mentioned that one person was arrested on a murder charge. Can you tell us a little bit more about who that was and what that?
So a lot of those details will come out as this case progresses. I think some of the indictments have been unsealed, but at the same time, we're not releasing that information yet. But we'll have someone follow up as soon as we get that information.
Are you able to release any information about addresses that were involved in this particular?
The indictments may, I actually don't know if the indictments have specific addresses, but if so, we're limited right now to what's in the indictment itself.
And just to clarify on the murder, I think he was talking about prior criminal histories. So one of the defendants has a prior murder in their history.
Yeah.
We did not charge anyone. We didn't arrest anyone today for a murder.
Right.
Yep.
So
Okay.
you can't release who that was?
Correct. No.
Thank you.
Hi, Blair Sable with KCBD. So we're talking a lot about the effect that this has on the Lubbock community in particular. I know, Sheriff Rowe, you've spoken a lot about the violent crime here and how it's related to drugs. But I'm curious, this seems like a large-scale operation, obviously a multi-agency operation. Are these people who have been arrested people who are part of our community, or are they from other places that have come here to Lubbock?
Yeah, certainly I could take that. Yeah, so we focused primarily in this investigation on drug trafficking activity and related violence in the city of Lubbock. Some of that investigative work took us outside the city limits of Lubbock, but by and large, the people that were charged today are local to this area, and we're committing criminal activity that's described in the indictment in this area for the most part.
Okay. I know that you mentioned San Antonio.
That's just where some of those big time.
Okay, okay.
And I'll jump in as well. You know, within 3 hours, Lubbock is the hub city. So a lot of traffic comes through here. And we see that when it comes to our drug trafficking. And as you can tell by by what we talked about today, a lot of this has to do with drug trafficking, the conspiracy to sell drugs, and the trafficking of weapons. So it's important to understand that because we are growing as a city and because where we are located, we are a thoroughfare for some of this trade. So it is here, but again, we're working hard together to try to address it as best as we can.
Sure. And Chief Mitchell, I want to ask you a follow-up question. So we were doing a press conference a few months ago with regards to violent crime, gang activity, and minors in this community. Is this operation related to that, and have any minors been arrested in today's bust?
I don't know that any minors, no minors were arrested in today's bust. What we've seen in regards to our local crime involving our hybrid gangs, and I know we talked about that a few weeks ago, these are our local kids that are really exchanging the sale of marijuana. and they're robbing each other because they use social media to get out there that, hey, I just got my my batch, and the other guys are coming over there to rob them and take them, and then the next week the other guys are going to go back to rob them. So we are addressing that because some of what you see today, they're supplying this to these folks. A lot of it's methamphetamine and marijuana. So it's all connected, and we know that drugs lead to our violent crime.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you address sort of how bad is or has been, the meth and drug problems here in Lubbock?
You know, I think if you look at us over this last 3 years, it is trending about the same in regards to our drug arrests. We have our crime suppression unit. We have our task force officers. Kelly and I and DPS, we all have officers that are credentialed through the FBI, through the ATF and U.S. Marshals. Our officers, our Lubbock police officers, our Lubbock County Sheriff's deputies and DPS, they have people assigned to these task force, so we marshal the resources that the FBI has, that the ATF has, that the DEA has, and they are able to provide us resources to attack those issues and get us intelligence information. And that's why this works. The FBI is facing the problems that we all are facing. We don't have the staffing to do all this by ourselves, so we have to marshal ourselves together to attack this problem. But I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
To open it back up to anyone now, can anyone explain sort of the thought behind the name of Operation Taste the Rainbow?
I can tell you.
Okay, so frequently when we run large-scale investigations, we'll assign the case a title. In this instance, the name was selected because early on in the investigation, we were encountering methamphetamine that was colored different colors. So we went with Taste the Rainbow because we were encountering these different colored methamphetamine. It's a good question, though. Thank you.
Skittles reached out.
Not yet.
Well, hopefully you guys don't get a cease and desist, but I'm curious, so, we're talking about this long-scale operation. Can you give us an idea of how long this was underway?
So I'll just talk broadly. My field office covers much of the northern half of Texas. We have a small resident agency here full of extremely hardworking agents and task force officers from these departments who supplement, just like Chief Floyd Mitchell just said, how his folks, we supplement each other. So I've got a task force here in Lubbock focused on this area all the time, looking for conducting investigations aimed at reducing violent crime, and often those are drug-based investigations because they're federal cases. So in this instance, about a year ago, we started this investigation, and then we've resulted today with 40 indictments and 35 of those in custody. So, for the amount of resources that we put into it, we believe it was a significant success. And then, although our resources in Lubbock are not unlimited, important to point out is that we also were able to bring, and my other federal partners in DPS were able to bring resources from other parts of the state here at the end of this investigation to really conduct the dismantlement at the end.
My question is for the prosecutor. You kind of went through the laundry list of these habitual offenders. Is it the hope that these offenders will be kept off the streets this time with the federal laws that are in place?
Yes, and some of them will be charged in the states as well because the states do a fantastic job as well. But the reality is federal charges are usually longer. You usually serve more of your time. Most criminals actually know that. There's a saying you don't want to do federal time for a reason. So for a lot of these most violent offenders, yes, the hope is that if they were convicted, they would serve a very long sentence.
All right, we'll take one more question.
Okay. What message should drug traffickers in Lubbock take away from today's announcement?
I'll do this? Sure, I'll do this. As the acting U.S. Attorney already mentioned, I think the message here is we are working together. We will relentlessly pursue all criminal activity, and particularly drug-related criminal activity and violent crime related to drug trafficking is a top priority for all of us here and many of our other partners in the area, and we'll continue to marshal the resources necessary at our disposal by the federal government, the state government, and local governments to eradicate drug trafficking, or at least make our best efforts to, and we will sustain that effort for the long haul.